Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast. I love when I have a returning guest because it means that somebody thought enough of what we do here to come back a second time. That always makes me feel good. He's an NBA trainer. You've seen him definitely on SNY with Ian Begley talking about some different stuff. And of course, you've heard him on this podcast. Shawn Farmer, my man, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great, man. Can't be better.
So I'll get right into it. This is the draft that we have in a couple weeks. I feel like this is a busy time of year for you because I know, traditionally when we've talked in the past, you start working with certain guys who are maybe trying to improve their stock. I know you obviously work with NBA players also. I'll start with this. What have you been up to recently?
Well, I haven't really been working with NBA guys this year. I did last summer, was a busy summer.
With everything going on, I mean, I know it's probably tough.
Yeah, with Udoka. I've worked with some WNBA players this year. So that's pretty much what I've been doing, dealing with them. Girls getting ready to go to Europe. A couple of kids going to Russia. And that's been my main focus.
And then I know you told me, which is one of the things I want to talk to you about. You've been working with Trey Murphy, right? Ahead of this draft?
Yes. I've been with Trey since around fifth grade. His dad brought him to me around the fifth grade. So I've seen him evolve over the years. And we had a really good summer last year. He was down in Florida working with me with Udoka. So that was a really, really good thing for him.
So why don't we start there? Because I want to get into some NBA stuff. I want to get into some other draft stuff and obviously the Knicks. But Trey is an interesting guy. I was put onto him, by people who deal with the draft and prepare for the draft a lot more than I unfortunately have time to, as like, hey, there's this wing. He's coming off his sophomore year at the University of Virginia. He is, or maybe I might be mistaken. Is he coming to junior year or junior year? Okay. So he's a 3-year player. He's probably going to go in the second round, maybe late second, but 32 he should be there. Now, all of a sudden it's like you hear Trey's name mentioned in the 20s or maybe even earlier than that. So talk to me a little bit about Trey. What do you like about him? What kind of player is he? Give me the rundown.
Well, what you're hearing is really, really, it's good coming from the right people.
Okay.
and I can't, and let me explain what I mean. You have a lot of guys out there that does these mock drafts and
sure.
Guys that are credible guys. Is one guy that I really like out of all the guys is Rashard Phillips. I think a really, really good job of breaking players down and so forth and so on. But what are you hearing about Trey? I mean, it's certain ranges, and you're spot on when you said him shooting up and his stock is obviously changing every week, but. I've heard, some in the teens. I've heard, latter part of the first round.
Okay.
But me having my experience with Trey could, he's your modern day 3D guy.
Okay.
He's the guy that, what a 3D guy is. A lot of people don't know what a 3D guy is in the NBA. And right now they are highly sought after in the NBA. These guys don't get a lot of credit. Not a lot of, they take on the players, on the opponent's best player. They can make shots, and also they're very valuable. And if you notice, in the finals now, you see Chris Middleton. I mean, he fits that role, and a Jay Crowder to me, in my opinion. But Trey has a unique skill set. Trey is also, a lot of drawbacks to his game from what I've heard from guys that I actually trust is the lack of creativity.
Yeah, sure.
I beg to differ. I think being in the UVA's offense, and this is no discount to what Tony Bennett done there.
They run a certain type of system. It's been very successful for them. They won an national championship.
No doubt. And I'm sure if you and I were in that position, we'll pretty much stick to the script.
Yeah.
But I had this conversation with his father, who, by the way, was a really good college player himself and knows the game in and out. So we've had this discussion on several occasions that, Trey chose to go to UVA. He knew this type of system that he would be in.
Sure.
So, but back to what scouts and these prognosticators are talking about with his game is the lack of creativity, which I think now that he's been having workouts, I think now they've seen him in situations where they're eye-opener situations like, oh, wow, he can create. Mm-hmm. Oh, he can handle it. And so he's a unique player in this draft. And then, like I said, and I'm going to make mention of the UVA offense, if you go and turn on the tape, he does a lot of standing, a lot of picking. But the things that he does really well in that system is he catch and shoot really well. And he's really good at reading defenders. When the defender turned their head, I mean, Trey is smart enough to know, and he cuts back door for dunks. And so my thing is with him understanding that it's going to bode well for him in the NBA.
So, and one of the reasons I want to talk to you is because I know, I had heard and reported a while back that Trey was one of the Knicks interviews at the Combine. I had even heard before that they were interested in him, and why shouldn't they be? As you just said, everybody needs wings in the league today, and I'm happy you brought up the creation thing, because to me now it's not just about being able to defend the other team's, one of their better wings, and every good team has multiple good wings nowadays, and hit a three, but also if you're getting crowded at the line and you need to put the ball on the floor, can you do that? And then that's where you get into guys like, Jay Crowder, who has always been able to have that next level. And then I feel like in this finals, you kind of go up and up and up the line to like a Mikal Bridges, who he could put the ball on the floor and he could do a little stuff with it once he does it. And then you get to a Chris Middleton, who I feel like has kind of reached the elite level of that type of player, where it's not only could he put the ball on the floor and do something with it, he could give you a little shot creation as well. And I feel like teams, my assumption would be teams are looking for guys that have the potential to climb that ladder over the course of time. And to me, if I was a team, the first thing I'd be looking about was maybe not so much the tape. Tape always matters, but what is the work ethic? What is the mentality? What does the behind the scenes look like for the kid? Is he willing to go through? Because, Chris Middleton didn't become this player overnight. It took him 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Do you think Murphy has that?
I'm chuckling because that's, I've trained a lot of kids.
Okay. Yeah, I know you have.
and Trey Murphy, work ethic, second to none. And Jonathan, I know a lot of scouts. I talk to guys every day. And one of their things when they're evaluating talent, guys coming out of college, they have their checklist. You know this. And work ethic is in there, explosiveness, athleticism, coachability, et cetera, et cetera. But you made a great point about Chris Middleton. And that's where I see Trey Murphy. He's a guy, he's 21, just turned 21.
Young for his class, yes.
Exactly. So, I know he's not 19, and 19 is appealing to NBA executives, 18, 19. They want you young. But he's a young 21. And Trey, his work ethic is like last summer in Florida against Udoka, they were going one-on-one. And so at one, and we were doing two-a-days. Okay. And so Trey played Udoka as a Buki one-on-one after we worked out. And Azubuike was talking junk. I mean, he was in him. I mean, Azubuike's almost 300 pounds. And I mean,
He's
Trey was going. Yeah. And like I said, it was really, really a good experience for Trey. But we were talking after they played one-on-one, and you talking about work ethic. You know, he wanted to go back again. Like, I mean, it was just a look, coach. I mean, let's go again. Let's go again. And I'm like, we've been here. We worked out twice today. Like, come on. Like, but my the reason why I'm saying all of this and I'm responding, and I'm probably, going around the block a little bit. I do that. Have a tendency.
No, I appreciate it.
But Trey, a team that gets Trey Murphy, the next 3-4 years, I think he will exceed expectations. My opinion. He will exceed expectations.
Let me ask you this.
Because of just that. Not just him having high character, coming from a great family, just a great kid, well-spoken, but work ethic, I don't have to worry about that kid working. No GM, no owner, no coach will ever have to question that.
Let me ask you this, because there is, and there's even some rumors out today that the Knicks may be trying to trade, one or more of their picks to try to get an established player. Colin Sexton's the name that's in the news right now. The thinking, I think, behind why they might want to do that is this notion. Well, okay, they won some games last year, more than anybody expected. We'll get to that in a bit, but there are already some established players on the team. People figure they're going to bring in another, couple or so in free agency, maybe return, obviously, some of the guys that are their own free agents. They have a couple of young guys on the roster already. Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin, obviously RJ Barrett. We'll see, will all those guys be back? Will they trade one of the young guys for an established player? Who knows? But I think the consensus is that there's probably not going to be room in the rotation for more than, one rookie, if that. So what I'm wondering about is, I feel like there's this constant push and pull between do you need to play guys NBA minutes in order for them to improve, or can you develop players in your system, even if they're only getting, 5-10 minutes a game, and maybe even don't see the court for stretches at a time, whether it be through the G League or what you do behind the scenes? Do you think that changes depending on the player, as in there are some players who, yes, they need to see that time on an NBA court to get better, and there are other guys who, for whatever reason, can develop and are easier to develop, or it's at least possible to develop them without necessarily getting them a lot of time in their rookie seasons?
It's no magical formula, because every guy's different. Because me personally, I don't think, and the NBA is a whole different animal. What I mean by that is,
what do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is, I think is individually up to the player to develop. I don't think because I don't know how much being in a system gets a player better. I think individually what he does, film watching, working on deficiencies, etc., gets a kid better. I don't know, and I'm just, that's just me.
Well, do you mean by that,
every kid? I think every player, Jonathan. I think every player is so different when you get to that level. Some may need to stay in the summer and work with the coaching staff, but I think, my opinion, that you have to do that work on your own, I think.
No, I mean, I find that fascinating, because the two, leaders of the, on my poster back here, the two leaders of the Knicks this year were Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. And all we heard all season was about Julius Randle was doing 2-a-days in the, I guess, was he in California? I forget where he lived, but whatever, getting himself in the best condition he's ever been in, putting up X number of 3-pointers, every day. And then RJ Barrett, who I guess, brought, I guess it's Drew. I think he works with Drew Hanlon, down with him and to, just work on the jumper. And that was their focus this season. Just work on the shot form, put up 3-pointers. Like, that's why they got better this year. Now, obviously they need an opportunity to showcase that talent on the court, but it's like a catch-22 because they needed to be ready to do that. And I appreciate, I think what you're saying about the system thing is like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but players will get on the court, obviously, if the coach thinks they could help them win basketball games. And that's about understanding the system and being able to function within the system, which we'll turn to a guy like Obi Toppin, right? Obi Toppin played a role for the Knicks this year that was within their system that looked nothing like the role that he played at Dayton in his 2 years there. But he was able to do it. Now, what does that have to do with the work he puts in behind the scenes to get better as a player? That's kind of the thing that I'm interested in. And it's like, I like you said, I don't think there's one magic formula.
No, and Obi and I've done a video on RJ Barrett and kudos to him. He went, put the work in. He shot the ball at 40, shot the three at 40%, I think, this year. That is stuff a couple of weeks back. But Obi, he played a role, So my thing is when you get into when you come into the NBA, whether you're a rotational guy, whether you're a top 5 guy that's going to be thrust into the lineup right away, I think it goes to how much you get on the floor to be able to showcase exactly what you can do and where they see you in their plans. Mm-hmm. Guys bounce around a lot of times, and I'm going back to Trey. I think Trey can play in any system. I don't think there's a particular team that he needs to go to. Sure, be a plug and play guy. I think any team any team that drafts him with his game and I think eventually he can evolve to a player that can initiate offense. I've seen that out of Trey. But
what do you look for when you say that in terms of can initiate offense? Are you looking for, like, is there a list in your head? Like he needs.
Yeah, I have one thing.
What?
His understanding of the game of basketball.
Okay. It's that simple. Okay.
His understanding of the game of basketball. Period. It doesn't come down to like, oh, he needs to be able to execute certain types of passes in certain situations. He needs a certain level of handle. Pass it.
Okay.
He can pass. Yeah, they just haven't seen it. I mean, I'm going back to UVA. It's only so much a system is going to allow you to show. Okay. That's why guys leave certain systems and go, and you be like, oh, wow. Oh, my God.
What we saw with Donovan Mitchell, right? And
Donovan Mitchell.
Louisville. Yeah.
Yes, Donovan Mitchell. I mean, who would ever thought that Bam Adebayo. Oh, yeah. Donovan Mitchell. We knew Jason Tatum was I knew Jason Tatum was a pro when I saw him on the EYBL. And I thought, and I still think today, and I think most other people think today, he should have been number 1 pick in the draft, 2007 draft.
I think if you had to redraft that draft, I think there's a pretty good case that Jason Tatum would have been.
But you can't get up here and tell me and mention to me that you thought Donovan Mitchell would be $170 million player or Bam Adebayo would get.
He's a max guy. Yeah, he's a max guy. Well, obviously, neither did the teams that passed on him because they went, So
that goes back to my point.
Yeah.
Look how these kids worked and they went to the right organizations.
So let me ask you this, because I feel like in this draft, there are players that definitely had the opportunity to showcase their skills in so I'll just bring up a name. A guy like Sharif Cooper. Sharif Cooper is a guy who, again, people, you don't know who knows what and like how informed these people are. A lot of people are mocking him to the Knicks at 19 or 21 because he's a point guard. The Knicks need a point guard. Like, he had a chance to do stuff at Auburn. Abbreviated season, but he had a chance to do stuff. A guy a little bit higher in the draft, James Bouknight, had a chance to do a lot of stuff at Connecticut. There's other examples, obviously, you could turn to. And then you see guys like, a guy like, or either of the guys really from Tennessee. I think probably more like Jaden Springer, like system. He played in the system, was limited in what he had to do. Which type of guy, and if you want to talk about specific players, feel free, do you think would be the safer bet for a team to make? The guy who maybe tried to do more stuff and she got the opportunity to show more stuff, but clearly still has some kinks to work out, or the guy who just didn't get an opportunity to show it at all?
The guy that didn't get the latter. The guy that didn't get an opportunity to show it at all.
And again, but you have to have the work ethic piece with it too, I'm assuming.
No doubt. And most of those guys that didn't get that opportunity, Jonathan, have a chip on their shoulder. And that's what drives them. And they got the right people in their ear. I think a lot of guys go a lot of different ways when you come to the get into the NBA. And most of the guys that don't be successful, a lot of time it's self-inflicted. It's self-inflicted. And what I mean by that is they get the money, they stop working.
Yeah.
They get the money, they stop working, and they get the wrong people in their ear. They change. Or what the young people say today, they switch up.
Is that what they say? I'm not young, obviously, so I don't know what
they say. Don't switch up on me, coach. Don't switch up on me. So there again, and I've been around the NBA a long time. And you can't reinvent this stuff. And I know the politics that go on behind the scenes and all of the questions. Well, not questions, but some of the nasty stuff that I've heard with coaches handcuffing players and certain things that go on. But a lot of that stuff is self-inflicted. So looking at this draft, there are, again, turning to the Knicks, there are a lot of it feels like, I personally think the best thing that they would be able to do would be to come out of this draft with a wing that they know they could put into their system. And like you said, he could fit into anything they want to do because of his versatile skill set. And I would not be surprised in the least if they ended up with Murphy, if they do end up keeping, the picks that they have. But just like turning to some of the point guards, is there like a skill or two skills that you think, again, talking about like point guards at the college level, if you were an NBA GM and you were looking to pick someone, is there like one or two things above all else that you would be like, I need the guy to be able to do this and I could teach him the rest? Yes.
What do you think it is?
Change speeds.
Okay.
And play out of isolation and pick and roll.
Why change speeds is the first thing you said. I'm curious.
Because so many young guys, they come in. Oh, man.
You're good.
My battery, I guess, going dead.
Oh.
So many guys come in and they're so gung-ho with impressing people or impressing the masses or impressing the coaches and whatnot. And like Chris Paul right now, he said it in one of his interviews, post-game interviews. He said, I'm the type of point guard that want to come in and slow everything down.
Yeah.
But now the coaches and the players were telling me we have to play with pace. And so he understands that, being in the NBA 16, 17 years. But Chris Paul, if you go back to college, he controlled the game. He still controls the game, even though he's playing with more pace. But I think younger guys come in, and a la Dennis Smith when he got drafted. Sure. He controlled the game. But I think what killed Dennis was he didn't know how to play when the ball wasn't in his hands. Which then leads you to, how are they shooting off the catch, which is like exactly. And sure. Then his deficiency showed up in a big way. But going back to changing speeds, for me, a point guard, I love to play with point guards that can change speeds, because what it does for me as a shooter, I was a shooter. I was what we call a combo guard. Now you got these hybrid guards. Then you got Colin Sexton. He's similar to a combo guard. But Colin Sexton, since we're talking about the rumor today.
Yeah, I'm curious. I was going to ask you, what do you think of Colin?
I love Colin. Defensive. He was one of my favorite players in the 2018 draft, to be honest. Okay. I thought he went top 5.
He's
tough. He's tough. He changes speeds. He picks you up full court. The only thing that I thought that he would have got better at this year, I thought he would have really got his 3-point shot better. I think his jump shot needs to, because he shot awful in college. And I thought that he didn't pay enough attention to his deficiency of shooting the basketball.
Well, let me ask you about that.
I thought he would have made a jump like a RJ Barrett did from last year to this year, because he averaged 20-some points a game, but I think he had to kind of like go and really work on that jumper and came back better. But Darius Garland killed it for him.
Oh, I love Garland.
They drafted him.
Yeah, I love everything about Garland, and it seems like that's why we're in the situation now where they're looking to move on from Sexton. Yeah, So I'm like looking at Sexton, and I'm like, okay, the percentage is good from 3, right? He hit like around 40% of his threes, but he doesn't take a lot of them. He takes a fair bit, off the dribble, or at the very least, not assisted. But you look at his 3-pointers that he takes, and against tight coverage or even against, where like they say open between like the defenders like 4 to 6 feet away, those percentages are not good, which says to me, like, okay, if you leave him wide open, he can knock down a 3 if he's wide open. But if you got someone in the vicinity or even coming at him, those percentages go way down. So then I think about, okay, well, if you're a point guard in the NBA today, you're going to have the ball. It's what happens. Well, I shouldn't say the NBA today. If you're a point guard, the NBA at any time, you're going to have the ball. So, and there's going to be somebody pretty close by you. So I guess I just wonder, like, and again, I'm thinking about him. What are the areas that he could still improve in? Is he a point guard? Is he a guy that's going to be able to really run an offense? Because then again, it's like, is the vision there? Is his ability? Or, I know he can make a play on the pick and roll. Do you think there's a ceiling there still for Colin to reach, or how do you think he reaches it?
Let me answer this question in probably 3 parts.
Please.
When you asked me, is he a point guard? Is he? I'm so and I'm not. I don't want to direct this at you more so than people that are evaluators.
Sure.
That's the problem they run into. That's why we have a lot of misses in the draft, because they're trying to shove these guys into certain
put them in a box.
Point guard. Yeah, put him in a box. That's cliche, but it's the truth. Put him in a box. He's a point guard. Trey Murphy, is he a small forward? Is he a 2 guard? What is he? Colin Sexton is a basketball player, number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Put him on the floor. Let him hoop.
I like
Let him hoop.
All right, I'm down.
Stop. Let's stop labeling these guys. Let him hoop. He brings. Let me sum it all up. He has way more answers than he does questions.
Okay. I'm down with that. I guess I wonder sometime, because when you get a guard like him who's a little bit on the smaller size, to me, that's where it gets into the questions of like, well, how do you, in order to make up for that, they need to be a certain something. It's like point guards and centers. It feels like there's almost special rules, or let me rephrase that. Undersized guards.
According to who? Who put the rules in?
Well, that's what I want to try to get to the bottom of. Do there still need to be different rules, or is Sexton a guy like, because I really, this is where I feel like these conversations get into the nitty gritty of it, because is Sexton a guy that you feel comfortable, getting switched onto, or just picking, or maybe just hit, that's his defensive assignment. He's guarding the other teams too. Maybe he's guarding whoever's in the corner, even if the guy in the corner is a 3 or a 4. Like, I feel like the NBA is changing in that respect, where it's, who can you, well, this is not anything that's new, but like, you are what you could guard, right? That's your position that you play. You are what you could guard. But now it's like the way offenses run, I feel like there's no more simple answers to that question with how people match up. And then in the playoffs, obviously, we see teams target the team's weakest defender. And regardless of what that person, the position that person plays, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So from that perspective, you seem to like Colin's defense.
Well, I'm not gonna say I like it. I like.
Sorry, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I liked him coming out of college. Playing defense in the NBA is a total different transformation.
Okay.
I mean, some things are similar and go under the screen. I mean, and like I said, scouting your opponent at that level is such a must. And I think guys really need to spend more time on film. And I think a lot of the great ones do. In order to study tendencies of players. And I think with Colin, I think that with his God-given ability and his lateral quickness,
sure.
And I think he can become a little bit stronger. But how much defense is played in the NBA today?
It's a fair point.
How much?
In the
regular
season,
we're going to put all this emphasis on defense. I think that's up when you get a coach like a Tom Thibodeau. I think he don't have a problem telling you or emphasizing to you, Colin, they're going to switch on you and you got to man up. You got to ball up. I mean, that's just something that you couldn't continue to put in his head at practice if he's not good at it.
Sure. No, I agree with you. And I think, as we've seen,
consistently remind him of it. If I must.
No, absolutely. And what we've seen, I think more and more, especially with these playoffs, it's like, you can't, like, there's no such thing anymore as like, oh, we're going to stick this guy on your best guy and we're going to shut him down. You can't shut down these guys anymore. There is no more shutting down a player like Trey Young. It's the whole team has to be involved and there can't be any weak links, which again, I actually think that bodes well for a guy like Colin Sexton, because as long as he could be just the link on the chain. He doesn't have to be the whole chain. He has to just be a link on the chain. Which if they think they could get him to be, then that's great. Let's talk about the Knicks before we get out of here. I know you watch a good amount of them. Was there one thing or a couple things this season that really stood out to you and surprised you more than anything else about this team? Or was it just like a whole collective? What do you come away with from the season?
Well, two things. I really had what I would call a premonition of how they would play this year.
Okay.
And that came true. They got better defensively. And then I was thinking that they would shoot the ball better if guys would, spend time in the gym and really get after it, because that's what they need. And that's why, and I know we're talking about the Knicks, that's why I think they should draft a floor spacer, a guy that can space the floor. And I mean, Trey Murphy fits that mold, a couple of other guys. But I mean, I think Trey Murphy is one of those guys that can really help them. I mean, he can help New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, he can help everybody. But I think this year's Knicks team, with the emergence of Emmanuel quickly,
sure.
they really. I knew there would be a playoff team because I know the history of Thibodeau. So, and I thought that was a great fit for him come back with the core, the young core group of the Knicks, and I thought he could mold them into playing competitive playoff basketball. And it happened. I mean, so that's pretty much what stood out to me is that they guarded. And I think in years past, it wasn't really an emphasis on guarding. And I think that's what he brought to them. And I think they're a couple of pieces away. You got to have shooters. And I think that Julius Randle, regular season Julius Randle was pretty darn good. Yeah. But I thought that we needed somebody else to take the pressure off, and we were waiting for RJ to do that. But I still think that they need somebody else from the point guard position and another floor space. I mean, Reggie Bullock did a really good job coming in off the bench, knocking down shots. But I think you got to surround or have a plethora of guys to take pressure off Julius Randle. And that's just two of the things that stood out to me is the fact that they did guard and the Tom Thibodeau effect.
Couple more, and then I'm going to get you out of here. One regarding Randall. I think one of the topics, one of the subtle points of, concern amongst some people in the fan base is that, Randle obviously this year finished 8th in the MVP voting and was second team All NBA, the whole thing, because he had the ball in his hands, obviously, as much as anybody, and he was efficient and he was smart, for the most part, he, kept the turnovers were not the same sorts of turnovers I think we were seeing last year. They were ones you could live with more. At other points in his career, he's been good off the ball. He's been a battering ram, finishing at the rim, playing alongside, when he was in New Orleans, playing alongside Drew Holiday and Anthony Davis, and then even his last year in LA. Do you think it's possible for him to kind of blend those two parts of his game? Like, let's say they do bring in another premier shot creator, or maybe RJ takes a step up or whatever, where like, how tough is that to do for a player? To be like, okay, I've now been the guy, but I also need to remember how to be not the guy all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the main thing is with that is you ask me how tough it is. It's really tough. But if you practicing what you're preaching and wanting the Knicks to win, you would have to take some type of reserve role, and if that's your end goal is for the Knicks to win, if they, hypothetical, if they bring in a guy that will push him back to the second option or the third option, if you really truly believe you want to get the Knicks back, because that's what he's been saying in a lot of his interviews, we want to get them back to the glory days.
So this isn't a skill thing. This is a mentality thing. Yes,
it's a mentality. Okay. No doubt. My bad. And I'm glad you helped me out a little bit on that. But
no, because it's to me, I just don't know the answer to these things. And
for sure.
Yeah. And I, also we hear about how much, roles on teams often get dictated by, I feel like, how much guys get paid. If the guys get the highest, that's a reality. I mean, you just said it before. Guys get worried about their contracts and this, that, like, if he gets paid, is he going to be okay being like, I'm okay, I'll take the back seat. Maybe not the back seat. I'll take the passenger seat, and maybe occasionally I'll take the back seat.
And for him, Jonathan, if he get his money, I mean, maybe he'll walk into his office and like, look, I'll do whatever it takes to win, get this team championship. Maybe. Is it likely? I don't know, Julius. I just know that from my playing days and from being around guys, that's just a hard transition when you've been that guy and you have, you're trying to get all these endorsements, and it's just a lot of factors. But if anybody can do it, it can be a guy like him, I think.
Okay. Let's finish up with RJ, because I know you've watched. I mean, obviously you've watched a lot of RJ Barrett. You've studied him, the whole thing.
Yes.
He's 20 years, right? He's 20 years old or 21. He just turned 21. He was 20 last season.
Yeah.
And I like the numbers are there. The improvement in the 3-point shot was there clearly. We've seen evidence of the playmaking and that part of his game. I think the defense, I would argue that the defense took a bigger step up this year than his offense. That's my own personal opinion. But I feel like when you get into these conversations about, do you include RJ in a package for, whatever, Dame Lillard or Bradley Beal or something, I always think about, and I've tried to study this a lot from my vantage point, well, what's the ceiling here that we're talking about realistically? And really what we're asking in my mind is, can he ever become, an engine, whether it's a primary creator, a guy you give has the ball in his hands the most time on a really good team, or even a number two where it's like, the type of role that Paul George has, or the type of role that Jaylen Brown, has in Boston, where it's like you're seeing evidence of that shot creation. Do you think that, because I think he's a worker, right? He seems like the work ethic seems impeccable with RJ Barrett. Like, is that something that we can, or we should expect even though we maybe haven't seen too many signs of it on the court over the course of his 2 years, you know, because he's so young and because the work ethic is there? Like, how would you evaluate him moving forward?
I'm going to take a realistic approach, and I'm going to say this because I can say it. I know a lot of people don't like RJ Barrett.
It seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, he gets a lot of scrutiny. I mean, his game is picked apart night in, night out.
He doesn't get grouped with the guys, with those other young guys. Like, you know.
No. And I was hard on RJ last year when I did a breakdown of him. I was hard on him because of the simple fact that he knew he was going into the NBA. You have to shoot the ball, son. You have to get better at it. Yeah. Spend 100 hours a month. I don't care. So, but I come back and say, I'm very proud of him from the jump that he's made from last year to this year. That tells me a lot about that kid.
Okay.
That tells me a lot about that kid. And you asking me his ceiling, RJ can be a number 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think he can be a number 2. That's just my opinion. I don't think he'll ever be a number 1, but I think he could be a number 2. And I don't know if it's with the Knicks. I don't know if it's with the Knicks.
Why do you say that? Why do you throw that in at the end? Because people are going to now hear that and they're going to be like, what? Why wouldn't it be with the Knicks?
Because there's so much stuff surrounding him. I think eventually he would have to get out of there.
What? Why? Can I ask what makes you say that? I have to dig a little deeper.
You're putting me on the spot, which is fine.
I don't want you to say anything that you're not comfortable saying, but just like,
well, it's nothing that I know, that's out there. It's just I watch Knicks. I watch the Knicks. I study the Knicks. I talk about the Knicks all the time.
Yeah.
With people in New York and with television people, podcasts, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever people, whoever have me on, but
you're good.
Somebody called me, but I just think personally, RJ feels the pressure and would eventually say, I mean, I don't feel welcome here. I don't feel like I'm one of those guys that. Not just from the fans. I just think, it would come down to, management saying that, we can put him. I think they look at him as somebody in a trade. I mean, his value is up. He's young. And I think that he will always be looked every time there's a trade rumor come up, his name's going to be in it. And eventually he's going to get tired of it. Does that help you?
No, it absolutely, it makes a lot of sense. I wonder. So
don't nobody want their name talked about in trade.
Of course
that
not.
Tells me as a player,
I'm not valued here.
Exactly. Somebody is leaking it. I don't care how much you smile in my face and dap me up
yeah.
I don't care how much you smile and dap me up.
Okay. So I guess then my last thing is I wonder, because it's crazy how quickly this has happened. We were, Leon Rose gets hired, brings in World Wide West, brings in a whole new front office, the whole thing, Thibodeau, and you figure, okay, this is going to be years and years in the making. And I think part of the reason this offseason has been so jarring for so many Knicks fans is it's like we're already now, some people, there's some thought already that they're looking to already jump to where the finish line is. And I don't think anybody foresaw this coming. I certainly didn't. So I wonder if this will be, like a pivotal offseason where if they keep this, quote unquote young core together until next year, will then maybe Barrett get a chance to show, okay, I have what it takes to be the guy or the number 2 guy, whatever, here. And I'm going to make it so that I'm so good that you don't want to trade me anymore. Or, as you suggest, will they explore things? I don't know. It's an interesting question though.
The NBA it's the NBA. They're going to explore. They're trying to get better. They're trying to win. There's a lot of pressure still, even though they've done a great job up until this point. But the pressure now, it builds. Okay. They want more. They want more in New York. So would RJ somehow prove them wrong? I mean, if he keep going down the street that he's on right now, I'm sure I would, if I'm a betting man, yes, I would agree that would somehow come into play mentally for him. He would say, I'm going to make it hard for you guys to trade me. That's a really good point. But it's the NBA. It's business. Yeah. It's not personal. Yeah. And
it's strictly business.
It's strictly business. And if you don't look at it like that, you'd be scratching your head and going to therapists the rest of your life. That's the business of the NBA.
I love it.
You'd be sitting there talking to Dr. Phil one day on time. Well, I just didn't understand it. I just thought they loved me. I thought they're going to give me a chance to really prove myself. No.
Yeah, I got you. Well, I'm sure RJ. What would you say?
I said, did you get my point?
I get your point. I'm sure RJ, as well as any young player at least, knows quite well. I know his dad's.
RJ knows. He knows what's up.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this was fun. I've kept you for far too long. I really appreciate
No, you did not. I loved it.
I always appreciate the time because, again, I could sit here all I want and, think and opine and all of the things. But, at the end of the day, being able to talk to someone who actually kind of has, the experience behind the scenes and working with these guys and everything, it's incredibly valuable. I guess you want to just tell folks where they could find you before I let you out of here. You're on Twitter, right?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Shawn Farmer, BB, at Twitter. I don't even really know that stuff.
Yeah, Shawn Farmer BB, FARMER. Yeah, and SHAWN, I should say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I don't go out. I have an Instagram. People have been trying to get me to get more involved on Instagram for some time now. I just my mind is just I figured out Twitter. That's all. That's enough for me. I'm good.
Yeah.
That's
well, we're old school, Jonathan. We don't. I want to be more active and like I said, Rashard Phillips is a good guy that I listen to. I listen to you. I don't listen to a lot of guys because there's a lot of smoke out there, and some of this stuff is just so far fetched. So I try to narrow my listening of people if that's something you can grasp, but
less is more, as they say.
Yes, no doubt.